Today we're going to be painting these beautiful blush pink spring peonies. Peonies are in season and one of my favorite flowers, so I'm really excited to show you my take on peonies. So I'm going to be using this Aero Color Ink in red and also this Liquitex Ink in magenta. And then this paint that I just showed you on top is a gouache paint by Horadam. So I'm going to mix all three of those together to get a nice blush pink color, and then I'm going to mix some hues of red and magenta for the bottom of the peony that you can see laying on the screen. So I love to use a technique that's a wet on wet technique, is where you wet the paper first and then you apply the wet ink or the wet watercolor in the areas that you've wet. So as you can see, I already wet the paper, and I only wet the paper in the shape that I want the peony to go. So I just wet it in a kind of a circular motion. So I'm painting this peony as if the peony hasn't sprouted as much as it has. You know that when you buy them and they're closed, they just look like little ice cream balls. So that's kind of how I'm painting them, as if it's just beginning to blossom open. So the brushes that I love to use are Chinese calligraphy brushes. I love to use either the brushes made out of goat hair or out of wolf hair, because I just really like the texture that it leaves on the paper. This is a smaller calligraphy brush that I'm using for this one, so I'm just going to use the tip of it, and then I'm going to go on the side. So as you can see, I'm adding water as I go. And what that water is really going to do is just going to touch the bits of ink that I've already put down and allow it to spread to other parts. So it just looks like a really effortless, beautiful flower painting. And for floral paintings, well, for watercolor paintings in general, for me, unless it's a fashion illustration and it needs to be very detailed, I really like for the ink to pretty much do the work. And if you've seen my videos and you've heard me say this, so you can see me hesitating throughout this video on what line I'm going to put down. I really try to be careful about putting down too much, because I just feel like the less you have, the more interesting it is, and the more you can let the viewer use their imagination to fill in the blank spaces. And as you can see, guys, I'm using, like I said, I'm using the side of the brush and the tip of the brush. Another great way that you can really get those really beautiful lines is to wait till the flower is like halfway dry, and then use the tip of the brush to add just really fine lines. Or you can take a really fine tipped marker to add more details after it dries. Okay, so now I'm taking a little bit of green ink, and I've mixed together two inks. So one is a Indian ink by Dr. P.H. Martin, and the other one is an ink by Dowling Rowney, and it's a pearlescent ink, so it has a little bit of glitter texture to it. So I'm just using it to draw the stem. I always like to put my inks in these little shot glasses. And the peony is still pretty wet, so it's allowing that green color from the stem to really blend in really nicely with the flower part. Okay, so I'm going to go to the second flower, and for this one, it's a little more of a mauve color. So I've mixed a little bit of yellow watercolor by this it's a Chinese brand called Yasutomo, and I'll leave a link to everything, is including the Yasutomo watercolors, in the description box. But it's a little bit more of a mauve color, so if you wanted to get more of like that blushy pink, then I would just suggest adding more white. You can also get white ink, and then maybe adding in just a hint of yellow. And I don't know if you guys can notice, but since I've added in more of a solid watercolor, where it's like a creamy watercolor texture, my paintings are not flowing as much. So the inks allow it to really move, and then as you add more solids, it gets stiffer, but it's okay. And those little like rippled end at the end of the peony flowers, you can really go all the way out and really just make a lot of fine marks at the tip of this flower to imitate those. Of course, I'm just doing a few on here, but you can really go in to define those. Okay, so the last thing I'm doing is I'm taking this Horadam Gouache paint on a brush that's just semi-wet. I've wetted a little bit, and I'm just adding in a few white lines to add a little bit more shape and more of a 3D dimension to this flower. Okay guys, that's my take on peonies. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Leave it in the description box. Also, if you haven't, please subscribe. I upload one video every week showing you how to use inks, watercolors, and print design. I will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week. Ciao.